Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhar Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishimar Bhaktivedānta Nārāyaṇa Gosvāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Guru Dev ki Jai Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupara Ashtara Shata Shishimar Bhaktivedānta Vaman Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai Nityalala Vishtam Vishnupara Shatara Shatashishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki Jai Nityalala Vishtam Vishnupara Shatara Shatashishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki Jai Nityalala Vishta Maha Bhagavat Srila Gaurkisharas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Nityalala Vishta Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura ki Jai Nityalala Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Śrī Rūpa Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai Śrī Rūpa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Śrī Jeev Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki Jai Śrī Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandadi Śrī Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय सर्व अभिष्ट विरक्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय श्री भक्ति देवी की जय श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय जय श्रील रूप गोस्वामी's Upadeśāmṛta ki jai Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's 12 articles on verses 2 and 3 of Upadeśāmṛta ki jai jai Shri Harinam Sankirtana ki jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranams, everybody who's here. Let's see. Prajumna Prabhu, Mantra Murti Mataji, Nitai Mukeshji, Hari Mohini Didi, and Chatamai Mataji. Dandavat Pranams, everybody. Hari Bo. And let's see. Nobody on YouTube or Facebook yet. All right. So we are continuing our reading of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's 12 articles, 6 articles on the things that impede bhakti, and another 6 articles on the things that nourish bhakti. He's explaining all the items in Śrīla Rūpa Goswāmī's 2 verses of Upadeśāmṛta, verses 2 and 3. So, so far we went through Atyahara, that's over collecting, overeating or over collecting. Prayasa, that means over endeavoring. Prajalpa, useless mundane talk, useless chatter. And today we are going through the fourth impediment, the fourth thing that impedes bhakti, Niyamāgraha. Niyamāgraha means, let's see, how is it written in a book? It says, adherence to rules below or above one's qualification and non-adherence to rules. So, yeah, let's begin. One second, let me just share my screen. Okay, there. All right, where is it? Okay, Niyamāgraha. Oh wait, let me just make sure my mic is plugged in. It is, okay. Niyamāgraha, adherence to rules below or above one's qualification, and non-adherence to rules. Regulations or niyamas are of two types. Those that are prescribed by Shastra, Vidhi Lakshana Niyama, and two, those that are prohibited, Nishedha Lakshana Niyama. So there's Vidhi and Nishedha. Vidhi Niyam, Nishedha Niyam. Both types of regulations bring about to the living entity's auspiciousness. Conditioned souls are eligible to attain a highly exalted state, even when they are in an extremely wretched condition. In between, the many other stages are like successive steps. These steps are resting places for the living entities. Various regulations in the form of rules and prohibitions have been prescribed at each step. The living entity attains the eligibility to climb to the next step by properly observing the rules and prohibitions prescribed for the step upon which he currently rests. If he is unable to attain the qualification for the next step, he is disposed to a lower step. This is called durgati, regression, and attaining a higher step is called sargati, progression. Durgati, sargati. So we're trying to reach a certain goal, and then there's many steps to that goal. Going up to the next step is sargati, and going back down a step is durgati. Firm faith in one's qualification is a virtue, and rejection of it is a fault. To properly follow the regulations for the step one is currently standing on is called swadharma, or swadhikar nishta. Nishta means being fixed in. Swa adhikar. Swa means own. Adhikar means qualification. And swadharma, your own dharma. Yeah. To act in faithful accordance with one's own qualification alone is a virtue, a gun. And to act in transgression of it is a fault, dosh. There's no other definition for virtue and fault. Interesting, huh? So the gun and dosh, like virtues and faults, are different for each person. For me, what might be considered a fault would be a virtue for somebody else. So you can't say, yeah, it's a very individual. Bhagavan Shri Krishna has instructed Uddhav. Sve sve dhikareya nishta saguna parikirtita viparyayas tudoshosya uvayor esha nishchaya deshakaladi vastuna mama satama guna dosho vidiyete niyamartam hi karmanam. That's Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 21, verses 2 and 7. What are you doing? Trying to knock the computer off. Okay. To be firmly established. To be firmly established in the duties. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Okay. To be firmly established in the duties one is authorized to perform is a good quality, whereas failure to do so is a fault. Good qualities and faults are ascertained in this way. In order to curb materialistic activities, O saintly Uddhav, I have established all that is virtuous and immoral among time, place, and all existing objects. To maintain firm faith in duties according to one's own qualification is a virtue. And inversely, To endeavor for that which one is unqualified is a fault. The purport is that the states of virtue and fault are determined according to one's qualification, not anything else. Okay. Yes. The states of virtue and fault are determined according to one's qualification, not anything else. The virtues and faults of time, place, and existing objects, the virtues and faults of time, place, and existing objects have therefore been ordained in order to prevent people from developing the inclination to abandon their prescribed duties and prevent transgressions of convention. These regulations, which are comprised of rules and prohibitions, can be further divided into two categories: eternal regulations, nitya niyam, and occasional regulations, naimittika niyam. Eternal rules and prohibitions. So these are the nitya niyam and nishedh. The living entity is a completely spiritual being. The regulations comprising rules and prohibitions ordained for the completely pure soul situated in his eternal nature are known as nitya niyam. But after attaining this worldly condition, which Maya has given him through the agency of material designations, he attains a state other than his perfected state. This other condition is comprised of material designations. Okay, wait, let me just reread this. So, after attaining this worldly condition, which Maya has given him through the agency of material designations, he attains a state other than his perfected state. This other condition is comprised of material designations. This conditioned state, based on material designations, is of various types. The eternal stage, however, is non-dual and one. In his eternal state, prem is the only rule for the living entity, and envy is the only prohibition. This one regulation, made up of this rule and prohibition, is part of the eternal nature of the jiva. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Let me just put this up here because she's trying to knock down my computer. All right, that's better. Okay. In the eternal state. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I need to sit probably somewhere else. Okay. So this one regulation is made up of this rule and prohibition. Okay. That living entity who is free from envy and full of prem is the shelter of eternal ras, Bhagavad Bhakti ras. Despite its being of 5 types, ras is one uninterrupted and transcendental principle. We are not currently discussing the standards of that stage of prem. Here, it is only necessary to know that in that stage, the living entities are eternally situated. I'm gonna need to move somewhere else because cows are not being very, a little bit restless. Maybe a little more. Okay. Okay. Occasion. So that was nitya niyam and nishedh. And that's prem is the only rule and envy is the only prohibition. Okay. Now, occasional rules and prohibitions. Although there are various types of occasional regulations, the steps within them have been divided into 3 categories based on their external characteristics. All the Shrutis, Smritis, and Puranas describe the gross divisions of karma, jnana, and bhakti. Rules and prohibitions are designated for each division. Okay. Okay, one second. I'm just moving somewhere else because this is the. Okay. Okay, so now, yeah. The following is prescribed for the karma division. Okay, so there's 3 divisions of um of rules and prohibitions. Karma, jnana, and bhakti. Now he's going to go through the first division, karma. The following is prescribed for the karma division. The observance of varnashram dharma, including performance of the 10 purificatory rites, the dasha samskars, and those performed at specific times of the day, anik. Its prohibitions are performance of sins, bad habits, and so forth. That's interesting. Like I always say, I'm going to do my anik, but anik means rites performed at specific times of the day. That's the actual meaning of anik. Let me just look this up really quick. Okay, looking up in the dictionary, anik. What does it say for anik? Anik is, what does it say? A religious ceremony to be performed every day at a fixed hour. Cool. All right. So the prohibitions of karma, its prohibitions are performance of sins, bad habits, and so forth. The following are prescribed for the jnana division: sannyas, tyag, vairagya, and deliberating on the difference between matter and spirit. Its prohibitions are activities performed in self-awareness, forbidden activities, and attachment to sense enjoyment. The following are prescribed for the bhakti division. While cultivating bhakti to Bhagavan, one is to develop indifference to worldly matters, observe those rules and prohibitions of karma and jnana that are favorable for bhakti, and through them carry out the maintenance of the body. The prohibitions for bhakti are giving up every type of karma and jnana that is opposed to Bhagavad Bhakti, giving up attachment to sense objects, and giving up any conceptions and actions that are unfavorable for bhakti. So yeah, we don't give up karma or jnana. We just give up any of the karma and jnana that's opposed to bhakti. Attachment to sense objects and giving up any conceptions and actions that are unfavorable to bhakti. Okay. The first step for a conditioned soul, karma kanda. From the moment a conditioned soul gives up his illicit habits, or in other words, his degraded character, he reaches the first step, karma kanda, abiding for the prescriptions of the section of the Vedas that describes the activities of fruitive work. The only niyam, the only regulation for the living entities situated on this step is to incessantly and virtuously follow varnashram dharma while aspiring for the next step, jnana. As long as a living entity does not develop indifference to activities related to this world, indifference resulting from distinguishing between matter and spirit and attaining knowledge of the self, he will be a sinner if he renounces his firm faith in varnashram dharma. But when this type of disregard manifests, he becomes more qualified for elevation. By it, his firm faith in karma is eradicated. If he is still inclined to follow the rules governing karma at that time, then his advancement is delayed. The second step, Gyan Khanda. In the same way, the rule for those situated on the step of the Gyan division is to maintain firm faith in Gyan. As long as they do not develop a taste for the step of Bhakti, they must properly follow the rules prescribed for the step of Gyan. As soon as the qualification for Bhakti arises, firm faith in Gyan should be relinquished. If this is not done, one becomes contaminated by the fault of Niyamāgraha and will not be able to progress. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11:29 instructs, Tavat karmani kurvita nānirvideta yavata mat katha shravanado va shraddha yavan na jayate. This means that one should act according to the rules and prohibitions related to fruit of action, karma, until one develops a renunciation born of discretion from the material world, which is pervaded with fruit of acts and heavenly pleasure. Yes, one should perform karma until one develops a renunciation born of discretion for the material world, which is pervaded with fruit of acts, karma, and heavenly pleasures attains through such acts. This renunciation shall remain in effect until such time that faith, shraddha, in the narrations of Bhagavan Sri Krishna's pastimes does not appear. Faith is the only qualification for bhakti. What is the qualification for bhakti? There's only one thing. It's faith. Tasman mar bhakti yuktasya yogino vai maratmana na jnanam na cha vairagyam praya shreyo bhavediha. That's Śrīmad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 20, verse 31. For the yogi who is endowed with bhakti to me and absorbed in thoughts of me, there is no need for monistic knowledge or renunciation. His auspiciousness is solely attained through bhakti to me. The purport is that only after one possesses faith in knowledge and renunciation will the activities of bhakti clearly manifest in the heart. Our only duty is to give up faith in karma and gyan and develop faith in bhakti. The temple of Krishna Prem is situated at the very top of the spire of Sri Goloka Vrindavan. To reach there, one must have ascended the 14 steps of the material world, which teems with the activities of karma kanda, and eventually rise up to Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha's topmost region. Firm faith in the steps of karma and gyan must be gradually and sequentially given up. As a result, one becomes qualified for the step of bhakti. The door of the temple of Prem is revealed when one ascends the steps of bhakti. The third step, bhakti and the sequence of its development. Shraddha, faith, is the only regulation, is the only niyam for the living entity standing on the step of bhakti. This shraddha transforms into nishtha, firm conviction, when one's anarthas are removed by remaining engaged in performing bhajan in saintly association. So it seems kind of like really seems like what is it on the shraddha. One second, let me just move over here. Bus. There you go. All right, now this is better. I don't know why I should sit like this every time. It's not, I can't reach the computer. Okay. So yeah, it seems like shraddha, and then Nishta, like after Shraddha, the stage is Nishta. And then Bhajana Kriya and Anarthana Vritti aren't exactly Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anarthana Vritti. Those are all seem to be included within, right? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so Shraddha is the only regulation, the only niyam of the living entity standing on the step of bhakti. This Shraddha transforms into Nishta, firm conviction, when one's anarthas are removed by remaining engaged in performing bhajan in saintly association. The living entity ascends the staircase of bhakti proportionate to the extent his anarthas have been destroyed. His Nishta transforms it into ruchi, taste. Ruchi transforms it into asakti, strong attachment. And asakti transforms it into bhav, transcendental sentiment that is the seed of prem. This bhav is the form of rati, spiritual affection, and it becomes ras with the help of various ingredients. This bhav in the form of rati becomes ras with the help of various ingredients. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11:14-26 states, Yatha yatatma parimrijyate so mat punyagata shavana bidhanai tata tata pashyati vastu shukshmam chakshur yataivan janasam prayuktam. Just as anointing the eyes with salve gives them the power to see even subtle objects, similarly, when the living entity's heart is cleansed by hearing chanting about my supremely purifying Lila Katha, he gains the eligibility to realize extremely subtle principles, namely the truth about my Swarup and Leelas. That's nice. When the living entity's heart is cleansed by hearing and chanting about my supremely purifying Lila Katha, he gains the ability to realize extremely subtle principles. In Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu 1:4, verses 15-16, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī has mentioned this sequence very clearly. Ādau shraddha tata sadhu sangota bhajana kriya tato nartha nivritti syat tato nishta ruchistata ata shaktis tato bhavas tata prema abhyudhanchati sadhakanam ayam premna pradhurbhave bhavit krama. I once had to say this verse for Gurudev in Gurukul. Okay. There are four steps in sadhan bhakti: Shraddha, Nishta, Ruchi, and Asakti. See, isn't it interesting how he doesn't have Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and Anarthana Vritti? I think these are all included within Shraddha. So it's from Shraddha to Nishta. The stages are actually Shraddha to Nishta. And then, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and Anarthana Vritti is what happens when you're on the stage of Shraddha. Upon transcending these four steps, one reaches to the step of Bhav, which is the doorway to Prem. There are different regulations, different niyams for each step, according to the level of one's faith. While ascending to the next step, one leaves the previous step behind. Then, being indifferent to the regulations designated for the previous step, one must sincerely follow the designated niyams for the next step. For those who disregard this sequence and do not give up Niyamāgraha, the zeal to perform regulations of the previous step, those regulations become shackles that bind them to that step and prevent them from advancing to the next steps. It'd be helpful if there were more examples given. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is like a good example, but whatever. I'm just gonna make up something. So if you're trying to give up cigarettes, you're smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day, 20 cigarettes a day, then there'll be steps towards giving up the habit of smoking cigarettes. So first you'll smoke 20 cigarettes, then you'll try to reduce it, maybe reduce by 1 cigarette a day. And then so those are like steps towards getting to smoking cigarettes. But if you're like attached to like, oh, but I just like smoking 19 cigarettes a day, and you just stay on that, then you're not actually making any progress, and that will actually be binding. So yeah, each step you have to leave behind, and then you come to the next step, and that's when the more your qualification increases, then you have to keep on progressing. So those who do not give up Niyamāgraha, the zeal to perform the regulations of the previous step, those regulations become shackles that bind them to that step and prevent them from advancing to the next steps. All the rules and prohibitions on the path of bhakti are included in one principal regulation. The set of niyams ascribed to each step on the path of bhakti are included within one general principal niyam, as follows. Oh, I like this verse. Smartavya satatang vishnur, vismartavyo na jatuchit, sarve vidhi nishedhasyur, etayor eva kinkara. It's Padma Puran, Uttarakhanda, chapter 42. Always remember Vishnu and never forget him. All the other prohibitions and recommendations are servitors of these two instructions. Always remember Vishnu and never forget him. So whatever rule we follow, we should understand, why am I following this rule? Why am I There's so many different rules. What's an example of rules? Okay. Why do I wake up early in the morning? Why do I not why I don't know. There's so many rules. Even just things like rising to sattva gun, like why do I not touch things with contaminated hands? Like all these things are to rise our consciousness and to make it so that we can always remember Vishnu and never forget him. All prohibitions are so that we don't forget Vishnu. All regulations are so that we can remember Vishnu. Yeah. So we should always understand why we're doing everything. The principal rule from which all other rules of the scriptures manifest is to constantly remember Krishna. And the principal prohibition from which all prohibitions manifest is to never forget him. Remembering this principal rule, the practitioner gradually gives up faith in the previous rules and adopts the regulations of the following step. If a person neglects to follow this, he will fall due to the fault of adhering to the rules prescribed for a previous step, Niyamāgraha, and will remain deprived of further advancement. Every practitioner of bhakti must always remember this. In this regard, Hari Bhakti Vilas gives the following instructions. Krityanyatani tu prayo, grihinam dhaninam satang, likhitani natu tyakta parigraha mahatmanam. The rites included within this book have mostly been written for grihastas and wealthy sadhus. There are no regulations for extremely detached and fully renounced Mahatmas. Avasyam tani sarvani tesham tad riktva siddhaye pragapekshani bhaktirhi sadacharaika sadhana. Although not even a single rule in this scripture, in this Hari Bhakti Vilas, has been written for fully renounced and extremely detached persons, still, the only proper behavior for sadhaks who want to reach the stage of complete renunciation is to follow the behavior of sadhus who've already attained that stage. Now, types of Sharanagati. The symptom of persons who have attained Shraddha is that they are surrendered, they are Sharanagat, onto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī says that Shraddha and Sharanagati are synonymous. There's no difference. You can't have faith and not be surrendered. Then your faith is an actual, genuine faith. Sharanagati is of two types. There's Sharanagati for householders and Sharanagati for renunciates. Hari Bhaktivilas gives a collection of regulations to be observed by householders who have attained this stage of Sharanagati. In this same scripture, the observance of Shiva Chaturdashi and other vrats are also mentioned. Of those regulations, surrendered renunciates will follow those that are applicable. Symptoms of a devotee with unalloyed surrender. As both householders and renunciates gradually progress in their sadhan, they attain unalloyed surrender. At that time, the regulations they must respectively follow become somewhat different. In this stage, one gradually progresses in sadhan, and thus one-pointed surrender to Sri Krishna arises. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11:18-28 offers the following perspective on this topic. Jnananishto virakto va marbhakto vanapekshaka salingan ashramang styaktva chared avidigochara. My devotee who does not desire monistic knowledge, renunciation, liberation, or anything else is not bound by the regulations of any ashram. Having left his ashram and its symbols, and being situated beyond the rules and prohibitions of the Vedic scriptures, he roams freely according to his own will. Ekantitam gatanantu Shri Krishna charanabjayo bhakti swata pravarteta tadvignai kim vratadibi. Hari Bhaktivilas 2382. Bhakti herself manifests within the hearts of those who have become one-pointed to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, and therefore such persons give no consideration to observing vrats or any other regulations. For them, such things are obstacles. Namayekanta bhaktanam guna doshod guna sadhunam samachittanam buddhe param upeyusham. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11:20-36. My unalloyed premi bhaktas have no relation with the piety and impiety resulting from observing rules and prohibitions, because these Mahatmas who possess equal vision have already attained the absolute truth by dint of their intelligence. Evam ekantinam praya kirtanam smaranam prabho kurvatang paramapritya krityam anyam narochate vihiteshva nityeshu pravartante swayam hite ityade kantinam bhati mahatmyam likitam hitat. Hari Bhaktivilas chapter 20 verses 382 and 384. For the most part, one-pointed and surrendered devotees engage in chanting the names of Sri Krishna, Krishna Kirtan, and remembering him, Krishna Smaran, with great love. Consequently, they have no taste for the regulations prescribed for devotees of a lesser qualification. Although they are sometimes seen to observe the standard daily rules by their own desire, they are not obliged to follow any regulations, nor are they considered to be engaged in Niyamāgraha. This is mentioned in the 8th verse of Upadeśāmṛta and is the glory of one-pointed devotees. That is, their greatness is in no way diminished if they do not perform the duties prescribed for others. The purport here is that whenever great personalities situated on a higher step follow the regulations prescribed for those on a lower step, it is by their own desire. By his own desire, a person who possesses the qualification to perform gyan follows varnashram, which is included within Person who possesses the qualification follows varnashram, which is included within the qualification to perform karma. He is not obliged by any rules. He is not obliged by any rules. Similarly, by his own will, a person qualified to perform bhakti observes the regulations prescribed for those qualified to perform karma and gyan. In other words, although he is not subject to such rules and prohibitions, he follows them according to his own desire. In the same way, although a one-pointed devotee situated on the highest platform of bhakti may follow the regulations of karma, gyan, or those prescribed for ordinary sadhana bhakti, he cannot be considered a Niyamāgrahi, one who adheres to regulations of a lower stage, since, even while doing so, he remains engaged in one-pointed bhajan of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna according to his own independent mood. Sadhaks who give up Niyamāgraha and begin to observe regulations very very quickly traverse the path of advancement. Instructions on Niyamāgraha. The instruction given here is that sadhaks attain the qualification for a higher step while following the regulations of their current qualification. At that time, they are not so insistent about observing the regulations of the previous steps. It is advisable for every sadhak to constantly remember this instruction and ascends the stairway in the proper sequence, with the goal of performing bhajan characterized by constant smaran and kirtan of Sri Krishna. Jai. So, wow, that was a very practical chapter. It'd be nice to, I'm just reading this for the first time, but it'd be nice to go through it and try to think of examples for everything mentioned here. That would make it I think that would make it a lot more clear and stick a lot better. But anyhow, yes. All right, so that's our program for today. Let's see who is here on YouTube and Facebook. Haribol Vidalala Sadidi, Ganga Mataji, and Joshua Davis. Haribol. All right, so I'll just do Mahamantra and we'll conclude for today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribo. Wait, what's Chatamai Mataji asking? How to understand the designated roles for each phase in bhakti? Don't recall any listing in Madhurya Kadambini. Well, in Madhurya Kadambini, it does give instructions for each, general instructions for each stage and, all the details for each stage, and so that you know how to navigate it. But I think it's also like everybody's an individual, and so everybody has a bit of a different path. Everybody has like a different set of anarthas. We all have anarthas, but they're all like different. My anarthas are different from your anarthas, and so then the ways to get rid of my particular anarthas are going to be different than the ways to get rid of your particular anarthas. And so I don't think like there are some general guidelines, like yeah, do this, do that, but then there's like unlimited things that are very specific to each individual. And the main thing is that, well, that's why it's very important to be with Vaishnavas who are um, like-minded Vaishnavas who help us like progress, who are uplifting, especially Vaishnavas that are more advanced than us. Who are like-minded and more advanced and who have affection for us. That's we, then that's very helpful for um, you know, like well, first there's their example that we can try to follow, and also they'll be able to point out anything that we're doing wrong or give us advice like that. Um, but yeah, it's important always to see that I'm always moving on to the next step. It could be really tiny steps. It doesn't need to be big steps, but as long as I'm, what were the two words? One was sargati means moving to the next step, and durgati was moving back down to the previous step, regressing, progression and regression. So something I like, just a practical thing. I'm not doing it right now, but I've done it in the past and I want to start doing it more. Is just like every Ekadashi is the day when you try to move up another step. And so like it's like Ekadashi is the day of reflection. And we really look, am I moving up or am I moving down? And we have to see, am I, it's important to see, like that's what we're reading in this article. We have to see, um on am I acting according to my qualification, or am I acting above it or below it? We can't do too much and we can't do too little. We have to see for where I'm at, what stage I'm at, what is the, what is the right thing I can do so that I can always consistently make small steps upwards. And Akadashi is a really good day to like uh just reset and reevaluate and make your resolutions. Okay, for until the next Akadashi, I am going to increase my japa by 1 round every day. Or I haven't been watering Tulsi every day. I'm going to water Tulsi every day until the next Ekadashi. And then when the next Ekadashi comes, then we can now make a new, okay, now what am I going to do? I've been watering Ekadashi every day for, now I can do this, and always making sure that we're making small steps. I think that's a really helpful thing. Actually, Śrīla Gosvāmī Maharaj says that Bhaktivedānta Ṭhākura writes about that, how an Ekadashi is a day to do that. Um, I haven't found exactly where Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura said that, but Śrīla Gosvāmī Maharaj mentions. And um, but then we should also, when we're um every time we make all these different, like we keep on making steps, we should always remember, why am I doing this? Because if you're not thinking of why you're doing it and you're just doing, then there isn't any real benefit. The real benefit from all the activities we do in bhakti is when we see, why am I doing this activity? Otherwise, we're on autopilot mode, and there isn't much benefit in being on autopilot mode. Um, you know, like, and so yeah, reflection is very important. I'm talking to myself every time I ever give advice. I'm only talking to myself. I'm not like, I just want to make that clear. It's not like I'm following all these things that I'm saying. I'm trying to, yeah. It's nice talking about these things because then it makes it more real, and then you're like, oh yeah, I was talking about this. I should actually try to do it. Um, but so like when we offer obeisances, why am I actually offering obeisances? Why am I putting my head to the ground? What am I praying for? If you're just mechanically doing it because when you go to the temple, you're supposed to get down and offer obeisances, and I just do it completely mindlessly, then it's not actually, I didn't actually offer pranam. I just did an exercise, I exercised some of my body muscles. But I didn't really offer pranam. And when I sing Gurvashtakam in the morning and my mind, because I do it every day and my mind is thinking about everything else, then I actually didn't sing Gurvashtakam. And we have everything we do in bhakti and anything really, we should do it mindfully. Um, and then there's benefits. Yeah, I think to the extent that our mind is absorbed in what we're doing and we know why we're doing it, we have some objective, then to that extent we're going to make progress. And um what was it? There's a point I wanted to, oh yeah. Um Also Srila Narottam Das Thakur says sadhane babibo jaha um Taha. I can't remember what it is exactly. But anyways, in one of his kirtans, I think it's in Prem Bhakti Chandrika, he says that thing that we are thinking about when we're performing sadhan, that's what we will attain. And so if while I'm performing any activity of bhakti, if I'm doing it because people will see that I'm, doing this, like I go for Mangalarti. But the reason I go for Mangalarti is because I want everybody to see that I'm in Mangalarti and that I'm a good boy and I'm not missing it, then if that's my objective for going to Mangalarti, not to actually begin my, take part in this most auspicious, when you go from Mangalarti, it makes the rest of your day auspicious. It's Mangal. Mangal means auspiciousness. And I mean that's just at the very beginning stage, but then you go deeper and deeper into entering into Radha and Krishna's Nishant Leela, and there's so much deep significance. So if we're not going for that reason and we're just going because everybody else is doing it and people will my objective is that people see that I'm not lazy and that then all I'll get is pratishta because that's what when I was doing that sadhana of going for Mangalarti, my objective was, that. So we always should be very careful. That's why, like, whenever we do Govardhan Parikrama, Giriraj Govardhan will fulfill all our desires. So my Gurudev would always say that when we're going around Giriraj Govardhan, when we're doing Parikrama, or on Anukut day, when we're going to Giriraj, so we should always pray to Giriraj, even though I'm having all these material desires while I'm going around you. I want a nice house. I want to find a nice partner. I want this. I want that. Please just ignore all these material thoughts and all these material desires I have. Just don't fulfill them. And please just, give me residence near your side, or even better, like, or more specifically, give me residence, or let me be able to stay with those who are near to you. Nija nikatani vasam dehi govardhanatvam. And so, um, and that's why all these songs that Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote, so many of them, majority of them is they're all full of these longings, like these objectives. I want this. Oh, when will that day be mine? When I'm wandering throughout Navadvip, completely oblivious to the outside world, chanting Gaur Nitai, and like all the songs are full of these longings and like that. And when we do our sadhan, this should be our mood. We should be filled with these longings, wanting to reach this objective, and then when we perform sadhan, there'll be, great power. We'll be moving towards there. But if we're just doing our sadhan, we're chanting the rounds just to pull down the counter beads, because I have to chant 16 rounds a day. I need to pull down 16 of these beads a day, and that's it. And there's no we don't actually have any kind of goal or yearning or anything, then it's yeah, our we're not going to reach such a high stage. That's why these songs of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura are so important for our chanting. They're like really important. And yeah. Anyhow, sorry, that was my long rant. Does
Haribol,
anybody have any point? Yeah, Chaitanya Mataji.
that was really helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's got to be custom made to our situation, the rules, and we need to go slowly. And just like what I'm gleaning is that we need to aim for consistency and just being clear about what it is we want. So I thought you explained it very well. Thank you very much.
And thank you. And one thing I think, like the most important thing, especially the like for the stage I'm on, the main thing is like I have to think, will this am I doing this to make my Srila Gurudev happy? Will he be happy with this? Because Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura says that this is what gives a sadhak life, is when they're, pleasing Gurudev gives me life. This is what every sadhak should be developing, this mood. Pleasing Gurudev gives me life. He's happy with me doing this, and then it becomes so it becomes so personal. Any activity that we do in bhakti, or chanting Harinam, or I'm just thinking, oh, Gurudev's happy with me following his instructions. Or like when I'm reading Gurudev, when I'm reading any devotional scripture, when I'm listening to Harikatha, these are the instructions that Gurudev's giving me, so that, and when I try to follow them, every attempt that I make to follow those instructions makes him more and more happy. And when I'm doing it with that objective of making him happy, then my connection with Srila Gurudev is becoming stronger and stronger, and more personal and real and tangible. And so, and then once we develop this, then we'll start to, like, it begins with making a relationship like with Sri Guru, and then by that we start to make our relationship with Krishna and with all of Krishna's associates, and with like that. So yeah, that's why, that's the first thing, is that we think, yeah. Anyhow, all right. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Radhe. Very cool. And okay, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow is, wait, Jana Sangha. So I think tomorrow is going to be all about the types of association that we should reject. That's the topic of tomorrow. All right. Dandavat pranams. Let me just quickly check on YouTube and Facebook. All right. Thank you, Vidyalala Sadidi. All right. Haribol, everybody. Dandavat pranams. See you all next time. Dandavat pranams. Chatamai Mataji, Pradumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Gokuleshwari Didi, Vidyalala Sadidi, Joshua Davis, Ganga Mataji, and if anybody else is there, maybe Indira Mataji or whoever else, Dandavat pranams. Thank you so much for joining. See you all tomorrow.